I feel it's very important for people to understand fear, because I feel fear is very misunderstood.
Yes.
And it seems to be always avoided.
However, the fear is what we've created. So the fear is a part of us that we need to accept. The fear, it's a part we need to love. And by loving those little pieces and all the little things, the big things and the little things, cool. We step into connecting with us.
The craziness of thinking that doing something so safe, and you have a fear of death.
Yeah, that's right.
It shows the dysfunction in when you're not understanding why you're doing things, and when you're operating from fear, how destructive it can be.
Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of Ambition Meaning Success. We've got a very special double up episode here on the topic.
Segue.
Yes. We were requested to cover the topic of fear because someone reached out to us and said that they would like us to focus on how they can utilize fear and how that works. So we had the episode previous to this with Sam talking about fear, and now we're going to unpack it from more of a behavioural sense, so we can get the most out of this topic, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think so. And just to be upfront, I think I'm a little bit scared about talking about this.
I'm too. I can
and that's fine. I guess talking about the subject is going to arise those feelings, and it's going to make it a lot easier for us to talk about, because we're going to be experiencing it while we're talking to you about it.
I'm immersed in this feeling. It's congruent.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel it. It's matters a lot too. Yes.
Very important. I feel it's very important for people to understand fear, because I feel fear is very misunderstood.
Yes.
And it seems to be always avoided, and in society, and then it stops people from growing, and it stops people from pushing their boundaries. So I think it's really important that we touch on this subject.
Yeah, I definitely do. I'm Jesse Dawson. This is Fabien and I. Forgot to do that bit. Nailed it. So, to kick it off with fear, I think we need to know what fear is. Why do we have fear? And where did it come from? What the heck is
just fear? That alone, knowing what fear is will help you a lot to understand.
I think so.
Yeah.
So fear, where it comes from. So when we were cavemen and we were in the tribes, and back way back, we had fear because that was our survival mechanism. That was how we coped with the surroundings. That's how we worked. So we ate food, hunted, and had families, and then we had our fear. That was our our makeup there.
It was very much that fear ruled the world. It was their survival. It was everything.
Very important.
Without that fear, they wouldn't survive.
That's right.
And the crazy thing is that we live our life like that now.
we still do. Because it's come with us.
Yeah.
Because this feeling of fear, this emotion of fear, or this primal instinct of fear, that's what it really is a primal instinct, is hardwired into our DNA and our makeup, our engineering in our body. And it came from when we needed to hide from saber-toothed tigers or from dinosaurs. I don't know if we were around at the same time as dinosaurs, but when we had to hide from things that were going to kill us, that was essentially what fear is, where it came from, what it's for. So looking at fear that way, and then knowing that we feel fear the same way, and it's never changed.
Yeah,
it's always
the exact same feeling.
It's exactly the same. When you're scared, you are truly scared. It doesn't matter what the content is that you're scared of. The emotion is the same. Yeah. And if you are, I don't know, scared of heights, like me, it's a good example.
I've also got a little bit of a fear of heights.
It's not the heights. It is the heights that triggers the fear. However, it's not the heights that is the fear. The fear is just my brain saying you're going to die. That's it. It's just going, dude, what are you doing?
It's a fear of death. It's a fear of death, and then when it in any scenario whether you're scared to talk in front of people, you're scared to talk to a camera, it does kind of come back to that fear of death. The craziness of thinking that doing something so safe and you have a fear of death. Like,
yeah, that's right.
It shows the dysfunction in when you're not understanding why you're doing things and when you're operating from fear, how destructive it can be, because it's not, fear isn't as useful as it was back then.
Yeah, that's right.
In our society
that's right.
now.
Yeah.
It's useful for different things, and then we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how to use it again. How to use
exactly.
For the better.
For the better, yes. Yeah. I love that way you frame that there. Being that it doesn't serve us in that same way that it did before. It serves us in different ways now. And the thing is that not a lot of people know how it serves us now, and they're still viewing it like the old way, like the old caveman.
It's not embraced.
Caveman did, it's not embraced. It's fear. It's fearful. It's pushed away.
It's avoided.
It's avoided. Yeah, that's right. And I know that the number one fear in the world is public speaking, and I think that's pretty incredible. And the number 2 fear is death.
Yeah.
How's that?
There you go.
How is that? And that's where
the comparison to those two, I mean, they're pretty similar.
I know that, I can't remember who said it now. I heard them say it the other day, and I can't even bloody remember who it was. But they said that the number 1 fear is public speaking, and then most people would rather be in the casket than delivering their eulogy.
Oh wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
And that's very interesting. It's very fascinating. So, how does fear show up in our lives, in our day-to-days?
Oh, I think, well, for me, it shows up in many ways. I've found that fear, it's served as something that's made me, I make me. It's made, but it's been a driving force in making me avoid things, avoid facing things. And so because I had that as a pattern, I still sometimes do have that as a pattern, and it then becomes a tool to knowing when to face things, knowing what to face, and seeing where the fear is and using it as kind of a guide. That's what fear is for me at the moment. Trying to face as many fears as I can in order to get out of my comfort zone and stretch myself and learn from the fear.
That's really cool.
It's a really cool, like a really precise indicator of when there is something that you need to face. Whether you'll fear even thinking about it. So you'll block it out.
That's the sign.
And that's the avoidance. Or when you think about it, you're just petrified, and you might not even know why.
Yeah,
and it might be something insignificant, something that, like, if you guys are out there trying to think of something that just strange that really you're fearful of, it's probably because you need to face it, and it'll do you a lot of service to do that.
I agree. How fear shows up for me? Yeah, it's very similar. I must say we have a very similar view on fear. For me, it's a tool. Fear, I've turned it into a tool. Say, it didn't just show up as a tool one day. I was like, it's a tool. No, it was once upon a time. It scared me to death. I didn't drive up until this year for 7 years because I had a fear of driving, because the first time I drove, some things happened and I built a fear around it. So it was a very real thing for me for such a long time, and it was a hindrance, and it was a difficulty, and all the things. It was an obstacle, a block. It was all the things it could be for me. And then I have turned it into a tool. So now for me, it is a sign to show me when I'm going to grow, show me where I'm going to grow. And then if I feel like ultimate fear from something, it means I'm going to have ultimate growth on the other side. I match the amount of fear.
The more it's going to stretch you.
That's right, exactly. And I match it. So the amount of resistance you feel, the amount of fear you feel coming up to something is the amount you're going to grow from going through it. And it's not. You don't just hit the middle point and then on the other side it's growth. If fear, it's going to be showing up always. It never goes away. There is, if you change your view on what fear means to you, you're able to push through fear and use it as a tool, like I use it. And it's that when something scares me, I double down and do that thing. When I launched this podcast, that was really scary for me. I was nervous and very shaky, I believe you could say, but I knew that's where I was going to grow, and that's why I did it, and that's why we're here.
I didn't think that I'd be on the podcast either. I was quite fearful of being out there and
on the camera and stuff,
being exposed, and that's the thing is, even starting this episode now, there is still some fear. There's still some anxiety around it. However, it's becoming less and less, and now I'm more excited to be in front of the camera every time.
Yeah, so am I.
And it's something that you have to train yourself. I think. Yeah,
that's right. When we have a big gap between filming, I'm like, when are we going to film it? I'm waiting now to film instead of being like, well, okay, here we go. I just get in. I'm excited. I love to do it. So that's how fear shows up for me anyway. How I utilize fear and how you utilize fear and how it shows up for you. Other ways it can show up is in so when you're growing and when you're trying something new, whether that's going to make you grow or not. However, that's when it shows up when you're trying a new food or you're trying a new activity.
Yeah,
sorry
to interrupt you.
Right.
I think a lot of the fear around things where there is growth is a lack of understanding, a lack of understanding of what you need to do and what it entails in doing that thing that's going to stretch you. And people are always going to fear what they don't understand. So the more understanding you bring to something in yourself and something that for reasons why you should do things, you should stress yourself,
that's right.
is going to minimize that fear for you. And there's always going to be that primal factor
primal
of
never
it
goes away
until you actually do the thing.
Until
you actually do the thing. And that's going to be that final resource that's going to push you over the edge of actually making a change.
Exactly it. And then it may not show up again for that thing either. Like once you conquer through the fear the first time, it might show up again the second time or maybe the third. Maybe it never goes away. However, it shows up differently. Because you've come through that first time, you know you can do it. You've got evidence, you've got reference points, you understand, and it's that education, whether that's reading books or whether that's just life experience or whatever it is, that is the education, the resources that you need to then understand fear, whatever that is for you. When you have those resources, you are able to push through the fear and it doesn't show up in the same way again. Because the ultimate conqueror for fear and anxiety, so to speak, because a lot of people relate fear to anxiety because it's thinking about what can go wrong. The best thing to do to get rid of that fear or that anxiety is to take action. And when you take the action, it goes away because now you know what's going to happen. You can't be fearful of something. You know what's going on. So if you want to, like, public speaking, let's use that because it's a huge one. A lot of people have that issue. When you're public speaking, it can be nerve-wracking as hell to be on the side of that stage. It might not be. It might be natural.
You might figure out that you don't actually want to do public speaking again. Exactly. But the fear won't be there.
That's right.
Because you'll know, and you'll understand that. Maybe not public speaking because that's a good skill to have. I mean, we won't tell you not to do that.
It's a really good skill.
However, you might feel a fear that you've been feeling for a long time and then face it and realize there was nothing to be fearful of. I don't want to experience that anymore. And then you're going to learn and you're going to grow more about it. You're going to learn more about yourself.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So put you back on track about the public speaking that you were talking about.
Yeah, I was going to say that you would step up on the stage, and then once you're on the stage, the fear's gone. It might be a different kind of fear now that you're on there. Now you got the fear because everyone's looking at you, or maybe you're fearful because you're trying to remember your notes, or maybe you don't have notes, and maybe that's what it is. But the fear of stepping on the stage is now gone because you've stepped on the stage and you've taken that action. So
you're always going to find something else to be fearful of.
Always will.
It's a human thing. A thing in human nature for us to, once we grow in an area, we'll find something else that we need to grow in.
That's our ego stepping in. It's our survival, because the ego is the survival. The fear technically is your ego. And we're not talking about your ego like he's the biggest dick, his ego's through the roof. Not that kind of ego. We're talking about the ego that's survival ego. That is trying to keep you safe, and it's the thing that tells you don't do that because you might die. And even though the excuse might be don't do that because everyone will be looking at you, or blah 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 blah, whatever this thing is that shows up for you when you try and do something awesome, it's just put a funny voice on it and just it's fine. And when that shows up for you, you push through, you grow, and it's just so important. You just got to push through it.
And the challenge is to hear that voice in your head saying, "Don't do this, don't do that," and you hear it. Almost, you move that aside and say, "Okay, that's the fear. Let's thank that fear for trying to keep me safe.
Yeah, that's it.
But I actually want to make this change in myself. And that's the reason why it makes such a drastic change, is because you're putting aside that primal and you're saying yes to you.
You're identifying it externally.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best thing to do. Whether it's you're scared of going outside or scared of going to the shop or whatever the hell it is. It can literally be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. But when you say it's scared of going outside and you're crossing over the boundary of your door into the outside world, that once you've crossed that outdoor line, then the fear of crossing the door is no longer present. And that ego that was telling you don't do that because you're going to die, that survival ego, the ego that's linked in with your anxiety and all the things that you might feel, it then has to change once you've taken the action, because it can't be telling you, look, now you've stepped over the door, now you're still scared of the door, because you're not, because you've stepped over the door.
You've built a resource to prove the opposite. And then it becomes, okay, what else don't I know? What else am I fearful of?
What's next?
What else am I fearful of that's holding me back to seeing more of the world, seeing more of people's opinions, people, how people are, who people are.
That's right. Like that. That's right. Because your ego, the reason your ego is trying to keep you safe and creates this fear is because it has no reference points. Which is, again, coming back to education and linking this with your education, how you view the world. When you don't have any reference points, your ego's like, don't do that, you're going to die, don't do that, you're going to die, because it has no idea what's going to happen. And all its job is, its one function in life is to keep you safe. That's it. It just tries to keep you safe. Whether that pushes you into this small little comfort zone that once was comfy and safe, and then becomes uncomfortable because you've limited yourself so ridiculously, because it might be that you've shunned yourself off into from the outside world. It's a good example. It's a real little one. And at first it was safe, and now it's like the biggest hell in the world because you can't leave your house. And it's because your ego didn't have any reference points outside of the house. So you step outside the house, bust that barrier, and then it has a reference point of outside the house. And then it's like, okay, it is safe outside the house. And then you do that a couple of times, because it's going to be there a few times, bust it a couple of times, and then you're like, okay, outside the front door is safe. It's all good. We're good with that. Now, how about crossing the street? And then when you cross the street, it's going to be there. It's going to show up in a different way, and it's going to be like, now don't cross the street because you're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to be hurt. Something's going to happen. Saber-toothed tiger is going to come out of the bush. It's going to get you. And then you cross the road, and it gives you a reference point of crossing the road. And you do that a couple of times, and your ego's like, okay, crossing the road is safe.
And then eventually you spread out to the whole town.
That's right,
And then you're not fearful going anywhere. But then you've realised you've forgot a neighbourhood over here that you haven't been to in a while. And then you start making patches of places you haven't gone again. And fear starts to build again in those areas. And it's up to you to realise that there's darkness in parts that you haven't visited. And actually be open to going back to those places and becoming comfortable with those areas of yourself again. Because growing and learning about yourself is always, it's an ongoing maintenance. It's an ongoing process of checking in to see, okay, I'm my fear around that is it's gone away. And so, like, I know for me, like, for instance, when we do our ritual, if I don't do it for 2 weeks and I get back into it, it's like, oh, I'm a bit fearful to push myself because I haven't done it in a while.
I haven't done it in a while.
But then once you get out there and you make yourself comfortable again, it's gone. It is a figment of your imagination.
That's right.
In that sense,
right.
that it's trying to keep you safe because it feels that there might be some danger because we haven't visited that part of yourself.
Exactly, and it's just a lack of resources again. It's all about your resources and all about your education.
Have my resources expired?
Yeah, have they expired? Because they're not always valid because the world's ever changing, and your ego in your fear-based mindset doesn't want you to change. That's the main thing. It wants you to stay safe, the way it wants you to be, so that you stay in your box and it doesn't have to worry about you dying ever. And that's crippling as a human being, because we need growth. Human beings have to grow. If we're not growing, we're dying. It's a core need. It literally is a core need of our human existence. And where was I going with that?
Blooper reel.
That happened. That happened, guys. Where was I going with that? I don't know. Let's take it away from another direction.
Okay, so what I was saying is...
I got it.
Okay, I got
it. The resources.
Technical malfunction.
That's it, just edit that bit out.
Yeah, we'll get
it was about resources, and when they expire and the world changes, and as we're changing, things in us need to change. And when we need to change them, we have to revisit those parts of us, as you were saying, and they might, the light might have dimmed on them a bit, and they need to be explored again, and then that can build fear because your ego's like, hang on a minute, this isn't.
I've already dealt with this. Why are we going back?
What's going on here? I don't understand, and it's coming to you again as the external voice in your head that's not you. So just make it an external, and it makes it easy to deal with. And it's jabbering on, don't bloody do this, you dickhead. And you go into the dark, and you find out, it was all good. I just had to revisit that, pull myself back in line, or whatever it is that thing was, and then you move forward and you grow again, and then your ego, then you're up for your next lot of fear. So it never does go away, does it?
No. And so it's one thing to fear something in you, and then it's another thing to fear what other people are like bringing onto you. So like fear of someone not loving you, something like that.
That's a big one.
So we got our 3 universal fears, which are fear of not being loved.
Yep. Not good enough. And belonging. Fear of not belonging.
I'll get there.
So it's fear of not being loved, fear of not being good enough, and the fear of not belonging. And there are universal fears that everyone has them. I have them, you have them, your friend has them, your mum has them, your brother, your sister, your dog, everyone. Maybe not your dog, but they just get dogs and cats animals. They got their own thing going on. But every person has them. They are universal.
They're the fears that everything in our life revolves around, and everything that all of those minuscule fears lead to. That's the foundation of where it all comes from. And the more you take care of the surface fears, the closer you get to learning about what your deepest fears are. And when you understand those, then you're able to completely change your life.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. It's really cool how the simple fear of crossing the road or going outside, or fear of your friend group judging you, it's all linked down to one of these 3 fears. It just all comes down to universal. It has to be that way. It's the code that we live by. That's the behaviour behind what we say and what we do.
Yeah, they're all ruled by a universal fear.
Yeah, all ruled. So like the judgment of others may be that it's because you don't feel loved. It can be that you don't feel you're good enough, and it can be that you don't feel like you belong. And the thing is it can be the same fear for 2 people, and the universal fear is different. Because for one person it might be that they're not feeling loved, and the other person it might be because they're not belonging. Yeah. And it's so unique
how they
to everybody.
To react to the fear. That's another element of it, is how you choose to react. Yeah. How your core fears... I think that's good to
go into right now. Let's get into that.
How your universal fears are shaping that.
Yeah, shaping your behaviour, and shaping how... Again, it comes down to how you see the world, what your beliefs and values are, what you... language, how you language. And it all comes down to how you're reacting to your fear. Because you can say it's hard, and you can say it's all these things that we covered off in language, and that all comes down to how you see fear. Yeah. And if fear is a challenge, then all of a sudden fear is reframed into something that you want to tackle, instead of it being something that's holding you back, and it being hard, or a wall, or a block, or whatever it is. If fear is, as I said, if it's a challenge or if it's an adventure, then you want to go on that adventure.
Yeah, it's almost like
on that challenge.
It's almost like fear is an absence of love within yourself. Like
that's really cool.
A fear, the fear of a certain thing means that you haven't loved that side of yourself completely.
Yeah.
And then loving those surface fears will allow you to get to the bottom of where that universal fear is, and then show that love and show that respect, and get to the bottom of that and respect yourself, and then transcend that.
I think it comes back to why we're here, what this whole podcast is about connecting back to us, and connecting to self, and it does tie in those things, and all those little things that it does, that fear does, all those things that hold you back from, and it tackles you down to the ground, and all the things you want to language around fear, and even those little nitpicky things that are like, I just don't like seeds in strawberries, they freak me out. Whatever it is, like it can be those, and all of those things, then when you accept them and you bring love into it, you're then able to open the door, and it just creates more meaning in your life because you're accepting you. Because the fear is just the thing that you are creating. And I trust that this all made sense then, because I felt like I was losing it a bit there when I was just talking. However, the fear is what we've created. So the fear is a part of us that we need to accept. The fear, it's a part we need to love. And by loving those little pieces and all the little things, the big things and the little things, cool. We step into connecting with us.
Cool. That's
so
cool.
I trust that made sense, because that made a lot of sense to me.
That's really deep. That's really deep.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And that's a really awesome reframe on how fear holds us back, because it's not actually the fear of the thing, it's the fear of loving ourselves.
Yeah, it's pointing out the part in yourself that you need to love.
Yeah, how cool is that? How cool is that?
That's so
I know that I touched on when I was talking with Samantha, we were talking about how the fear, you end up building a fear of the fear and not the thing that created the fear.
It becomes so external.
It's just like all these things.
And so that shows the build-up of your surface fears versus your universal
and your ego
fear.
getting in the way and just building and stacking it on it. I know that's what it was like when I was driving. The event that now that I look back on it, now that I've busted the fear, which is a really cool thing to do. If you ever do a phobia bust or a fear bust, that's just so cool. And I get rid of the fear, and I can look back at the event, and the event's just like, oh wow, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
So what? I can grow from that. I know what I did wrong. I just never do it again. However, the fear that I built with that was then the fear, and then I built the fear on the fear, and then the fear on the fear on the fear, and then here I was 10 fears down, 10 fears deep, and I was so petrified of the thought of driving, because the thought triggered this and this and this and this, and I just this line up of fear. Yeah, the meaning I gave it. It was never actually driving that scared me. Yeah. It was my idea of what I gave it, which is the part of me that I needed to accept and the part of me that I needed to love. And create that change and that shift, and all of a sudden fear became a tool, and I grew from it.
A good example of that fear is not that fear, but a good example. I lost my track there. A good example of this.
It's one of them days.
Good. It must be the fear. It must be the fear stuffing us up. A good example of this is in relationships. When people have a fear of being alone. It's quite directly a correlation of fear of not wanting to love themselves, not wanting to be alone,
and sharing it in a relationship.
Yeah, because they're afraid that maybe they're not worth loving. They're not worth loving, enough. So they need to be in relationships, and they jump from relationship to relationship, seeking external love from their partners until at the end they're just going to keep being unhappy because they're not resolving that part of themselves that they need to internalize the fear, the love.
The love.
They need to bring the love within, and that's so. Then you see a lot in society where people they finally break off with their relationship, and then they go into self-love. And they change that. That's what changes their life, is when they don't need that relationship to make them happy, and they're not afraid of being alone.
And be alone, and then they flower. And
it's amazing crazy. Who comes out of that.
It's
just a completely different person, and that's the essence of them. That's the truth of them, that they were hiding behind the fear of being alone in that relationship, which is so sad to me to think that you would deny the beauty of yourself, that blossoming flower of a person, because you're afraid of finding out who that is. You're afraid of finding out that awesome part of yourself,
that golden, pure, just being of love.
How crazy is that? And then when you're in that place of fear in that relationship where that rules you, you have no idea what is on the other side of that fear.
You have no idea. And there's people that go through their whole lives and they get to the end and they never busted through the fear. And essentially, I love saying this. It's that I don't like saying it. I love using this analogy. That they go through their whole lives just eating plain chips. And they've never known that there's different flavors of chips, and there's sauces, and there's other food like fruit and like vegetables and all these other things that they don't even know, because they've just been eating plain chips and their whole life they ate it. And to even go further than this, they see people that have different food and they go, no, it's too risky. And they shut off and they go back to their plain chips. So this, I know this works, this is good. But they don't risk having the full breakfast or whatever it is, because they think it's too scary and they shut it off. and that's their awesomeness that they don't want to face yet.
It's interesting talking about fear in so many analogies.
Yeah.
Because it relates to so many different scenarios. And I hope that you guys watching this are able to hear scenarios that we're talking about and maybe listen back over it and see if you can apply it to different areas of your life.
Yeah, that's
because it's so hard to encapsulate all the elements. We'd be here for hours and hours.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
All of our topics we cannot cover in 30 minutes. We have days and days and days of stuff to talk about. And 30 minutes is just so hard to cram.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on fear again.
Yeah. We'll bring it up again
and
discuss it. It'll be in other videos as well.
Yeah.
I think, what you were saying, go back and watch it again because you'll see so much the second time around. Even the third time round, there'll be other things that'll just click. And it's all right, we're throwing this out to you. So this is your responsibility to grab this with two hands and say, how can I fix this? How can I do this with me? Even if it's scary, even if even if fear comes up, because we just discussed that fear is what's going to be your driver, and fear is what shows you where you can grow, and it doesn't show up once you conquer it. So all those things that we discussed.
Imagine if you lived a life where whenever you felt fear, you didn't face it.
I know.
Where would you be? You wouldn't get far.
You'd be in a box in a bubble or something.
You wouldn't get far. And mentally, and that's why understanding fear and you can be afraid of fear. You can be terrified. But you need to know that there's something on the other side of that.
Yeah, you do.
And that you need to have that blossoming flower be your core driver, not that
be your
fear.
Target. Yeah, the fear isn't the target. The fear is just the step. It's the actual stairs. This the stairs you take to get to the flower.
It's the work.
It is. Yeah, you have all this stuff here, and then eventually, you up and up and up and up and up you go as you grow and you learn, and you become more whole. And that's the idea: is connecting back with self. You become more of you, and all the little things that we've talked about, and all the ins and outs and ups and downs and rounds and all the things that we discussed in this, go back and watch again.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see how they can become blossoming flowers. You can see how they can become you, and how you can love yourself and connect back to you. And I think that's just
and
amazing.
you might even see, because I know I felt in myself at the start of the video, I was probably a little bit fearful.
Yeah, I was a bit fearful.
And then you see, then we start to blossom at the end because we're getting more comfortable and realize there's nothing to be afraid of. We're giving what we're here to do.
That's right, and that's probably why the fear was there as well. Because I can talk about this for ages and ages and ages. It's ingrained in me, this kind of topic, because I've mentioned it so many times, and yet there's a mind blank in there because now it matters, and the fear steps in when things matter. Fear steps in, and that's
okay. It's okay.
It's literally watching us overcome the fear as we're talking about it, and that's the beauty of it. We're being the example for you, so to let you know that's okay, because we make mistakes and we screw it up,
and
all
to not be ashamed,
and we're scared,
not to be ashamed.
I'm scared all the bloody time, and I just keep showing up, because that's the key. Just keep showing up, because one day it's not going to be scary, and I'm going to throw that into your court, and you can do what you need to do with that. To become that blossom, blossoming flower, tree, forest of greatness and awesome.
Yeah, whatever it is for you.
That's it. Righto. Well, I think that's us there, wrapping it up. Do the usual: the Facebook page, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and the website.
Don't be afraid to share it around.
Yeah, that's it. Don't be afraid. People need this. You need this. I'm sure there's someone that that you don't know needs this. By sharing it, you find out that they need it, and that is awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.